Today we're going to make a endless or continuous loop bowstring for your bow. As you can see, very minimal materials required. This is again a piece of scrap 2x4 that I've used for dozens upon dozens of strings. Most of my strings that I make are somewhere around the 4-foot range, but your board can be longer depending on what strings you're going to make. But I'm making this video mainly for everyone that's interested in my viewers that are watching because of my horse bow. So you'll be within this size and material needs. Today I'm using pure silk, and that's what I use on lots of my bowstrings actually. And this is a 2x4, as I said, and very simply I started at 36 inches and drilled holes every inch until I was about 50 inches, somewhere around there. You're going to have one nail for your starting point, which you can see I have marked with 0, and you're going to have another nail that's going to go in the spot where your string length is going to be. Now I have mine all labeled for the different bows that I have that I shoot. The one I'm making a string for today that you guys are going to see is my the second sinew composite bow that I made, and so that string length is right here. I have it marked out, and then you have an anchor nail, which the distance from the start or the finish to your anchor nail doesn't really matter, but you need to have an anchor nail at each end of the board or of your jig, whatever you want to call it. But I like to do bare essential stuff, and I won't be using any serving jigs or anything like that today, so I'm going to show you how to do it all by hand. I make my Flemish twist all by hand. I don't use a board or anything for those, but I've basically the last couple of years have only made endless loop strings, and I find them to perform a lot better, and they're a lot faster to make than a Flemish twist, for me at least. So I'm going to show you guys my take on it. It's not the only way to do it. There's lots of ways to do it, but this is the way I make my bowstrings. And now the first thing that's important before you go out to make a string for your bow is finding the length of string you need, of course. Now I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to try and make this quick video, but I'm going to put a link in the description of this video down below, so you'll be able to watch a video. And Nick, the Backyard Bowyer, actually put out several years ago an excellent video on that, on how to find the exact length of string needed for your bow. And I don't go by or rely on traditional, where they say 3 inches for a long bow, 4 inches for a recurve. It doesn't fit with my bows. So I like to go by exact measurement needed. I like to have my strings made close to exact, and I don't like to put twists in them more than I have to. So to find your length of string needed, watch Nick's video, and it'll explain everything. It's a very simple process, and it works perfect. And that's actually how I do mine. The the string material, as I said, it's very strong. It's pure silk, and I also have a link in my description for this material too. So you guys, if you're interested in using the same stuff I use, I'll put a link there to the product. And it's very inexpensive. It's in my opinion better than Dacron, and it's good for all weather. It also can be used for binding the sias on your bow. You can put the binding on it, and you can do the handle wrap as well on your horse bows. Very strong, very durable, very inexpensive product, and can be used for all your string needs. I've made, I don't know, probably more than half a dozen strings already off of this spool. Anyway, so if you're going to be using this string material, or any string material for that matter, and it starts on a large spool, you want to transfer some of it to a smaller spool. And this is what I use to do the whole string process. I'll use this to get the string body laid out on my board, but then I'll go to this to actually do the serving, and it's a lot easier just to pass this around and then I'll show you how I get to smaller areas of serving where I just cut out lengths of string actually. So we'll go ahead and get started. What you do, real simple, take out a length of string and tie it on your anchor, tie a knot on your anchor nail. I probably should clean some of these strands off. And then you just start, you come down to your second nail where it's positioned and start looping. Now you want to maintain, you don't want to pull with all your might, but you want to maintain a good even tension throughout the laying out of the string, if that makes sense. Then you're going to come to back to your first nail, and you're going to make a loop on there, and you're going to continue this for as many strands as you need. And today we're making a 12 strand silk bowstring, and 12 strands will hold up excellent for a 50-pound bow. 8 to 10 strands is good for 30-40 pounds, and you can just add a couple of strands for anything above 50 pounds. Probably every 10 pounds add a couple of strands, it's just to be safe, but it really doesn't need that. I could probably get away with a 10 strand string for the bow I'm making, because it's actually only about 43 pounds. I mean, for the string I'm making for this bow. So maintain, keep counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. This is my 4. So that's 8. Alright, so I'm going to finish wrapping this and I'll be back. Start serving these for the string groove now. So you want to start at your center mark, and you're going to do one bundle a little bit. You're going to start a little bit to the one side and serve a couple inches in the other direction, and then you're going to do the other bundle a little bit to the other side and then serve towards the other direction. And it doesn't matter which direction you start, just make sure you do one way and one the other. And that is so when you rotate the string body after you cut your anchor string loose, that they'll arrive at the nails at about the same position, so you'll have equal amount of serving material in the string groove and on either side of the string groove at the scia. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because we're just going for enough material to sit in the string groove basically of the scia. So what I did there is I just wet the tag end with saliva, and you can do that with wax too, but I don't use wax. I don't use wax on my bowstrings. That will be for speed, because I don't want added weight. For hunting strings, you can use that, you know, for general purpose, of course. Okay, so laying it down, lay the tag end down into the string body, into the bundle that you're starting with, and I like to intertwine it so it just cooperates and stays there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start serving this around itself to basically pin it down and wrap around that tag end and the bundle that you lay down. So as you can see, and I can move it and make it a little tight here, get those nice and clean, and then keep just rotating this spool around to serve that area. And as you can see, I started a little bit to the left of center, and then I'm serving this way for, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches. And keep checking your bindings. and that's probably enough. We got maybe a total of, 2 3/4 inches, 3 inches. I'll go a little bit more. Alright, now you can pull this out, because we will actually just cut that off later. So now I pull out a good section, probably about 15 to 18 inches. I hold a spool in my mouth and cut the tag end loose, so I have that section loose now. Again, wet this end. Okay. Now you're going to make a U, and you're going to lay that tag end over the bundle, like so. You're going to take it now and pass it through that U, and then lay it back over. And you're going to repeat this 7 or 8 times, just making loose wraps, maintaining tension over here. You're pinching that string you're serving. 7 or 8 times. Now lay it down onto the serving, and now what you're doing is you're just going to transfer these loops from here to here by just rotating this around, maintaining your pressure there on the string, sending this over, and this is just going to lock in the serving until you get to the last loop. Then you're going to take the one that you laid down and pull it tight, and this locks it in right there. And then you can cut all this stuff loose. Just make sure you don't cut the string itself. And what we can do with that is you can singe that off with a lighter, or put a little bead of crazy glue or super glue right there just to ensure. But there's a serving, and then you're going to repeat the same thing on this bundle, and you're going to start a little bit to this side of center and go that way with it. And then we'll cut these loose and rotate this thing around. I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. Okay, so now we're going to serve the loop. Now, as you can see, this is what the serving looks like, and this would be sitting in the string groove and coming down roughly 1 inch on each side of the sia. I have it marked here for where I start my loops, where I finish my loops and bring the bundles together to create the loop. So as you can see now, this is starting to make sense, hopefully. And what I do is I take a length of string, and it can actually be the length, that was left over from the anchor string that you would cut loose. And I take that, I double it over, so making a loop, bring it around, bring that section through and cinch it tight right around the 6-inch mark. Doesn't have to be perfect, because the way I do this is so this actually can be movable. It'll be very tight, but you can actually move it up and down a little bit so it sits right at the right position depending on your bow and how you end up. Your sias may not be exactly the same length as mine, but this works out because some of my bows have different length sias. So then what you do is you cinch it tight on there. You got both bundles pulled together. Then you make sure that it doesn't rotate, and you start passing it around the string tight, just like you're doing a serving. Don't let the string body rotate with you. Keep it still. Just pass the string around about 6 or 7 times, and then bring it out the bottom like this. And then you're going to have to wet these ends. Okay. Same principle, make a U, pass these through just like we did on the other serving. Bring them around. Eight times or so. Lay it down. Transfer. and pull tight. Cut. There you go. One loop served. Now we're going to serve the center. Be right back. We're going to serve the center now, center serving, and because we're going after speed and minimal material, I'm just going to serve a little spot. I have it marked. I shoot my bows above center. They're offset, so if you're making a horse bow, you will too. The easiest way to figure that out is, now that you have both loops done, you can take the string off of your board and you can string your bow up. And you can make a mark, checking of course that your brace height is right around a 4-inch mark, and then you can make a mark right where your arrow is going to sit on the string, and then put the string back on the board, and then come back and do this serving. Or you can go above center and serve a 2-inch or 3-inch area, whatever you like. So I wet the tag end again. I lay it down just above where I'm going to serve this center serving. And just like before, start passing it over to pin it down. A few times. You can, you'll have a little bit of material over here, so you can pull this to clean it up on this end. And keep going. Clean it up. Make sure these are nice and tight. And I'm literally probably just going to do a 1/2 inch area. And then cut all this loose. Okay, so now I'm going to get this out of the way. Now I'm going to make that U again. First I better wet this because it's starting to be difficult. Wet the tag end, add some weight to it, make your U, pass it around 7 or 8 times. Pin it down, come back. You can get this tag end out of the way, because we're going to cut all that excess off. Transfer. Just transfer back, just locking it in. Locking it in. Okay. Now make sure you grab the correct tag end, pull that tight. That's it. Cut all that off. And then hit that with a lighter, and you'll definitely want to put a bead of crazy glue or super glue there. And if you use a knocking point to shoot, then you can go ahead and, in my knocking point video, you can use another piece of this, or even a smaller, finer thread, even like a linen thread or a finer silk thread, single strand, and you can tie a knocking point exactly where you need it to be on this miniature center serving. Bowstring is done. I hope you guys can make one and enjoy the process. Have any questions, just let me know. Thanks again for watching.